How y'all doing today? Firearms training is a subject that don't get talked about enough when we're talking about just the everyday person carrying a firearm. How much training do they get? How much training do they need? Uh, I am a fan of people carrying a firearm for self-defense and for the defense of others. I believe that is your constitutional right. I I am not a fan of uh, requiring a concealed carry permit. Um, I am more of a fan of if you are carrying that you should be required to have training before you can carry that weapon, and you should be able to show proof that you've had training. Uh, we're not to that point yet. Uh, you can go out. Anybody can go out and get a concealed carry permit. They can buy a firearm and they can carry that permit in some states, like Arkansas, which is constitutional carry. You don't even have to have a permit. You just have to have a firearm and you can carry that weapon. And that's I'm all for you carrying a weapon. I believe that you have that right. Uh, it's given to you by the Constitution of the United States, and I don't believe that that should be taken away from you in any way. Uh, but do you train with that weapon when you carry it? Because you got to remember that you are responsible for what happens with that weapon. If you fire that weapon, if you accidentally fire that weapon, you're not trained and you're carrying it in the wrong manner, and you accidentally discharge that weapon, uh, you're responsible for it. I'm sorry is not going to fix the mistake that was made. So, do you train? If you don't, you should. Okay, and if you do train, how do you train? Do you just go out and shoot a few rounds at a target while you're standing, static at a target? Uh, that is a form of training, but that real training for real scenarios that you might would encounter in a self defense situation or in the defense of someone else. Um, so, you need to think about what you're going to do when you're training. Do you use an instructor? Do you go to a firearms instructor and say, "Hey, look, I want to have some more training on what to do. How how can I get more proficient with this weapon? How can I be safer with this weapon? How can I be effective with this weapon when I have to use it or if I have to use it?" Does that instructor and your real firearms instructors will actually have a lesson plan. They're not just going to go out and let's go work on a few things. They're going to a good one, a reputable one, will have a lesson plan of what he's going to teach that day, or he or she is going to teach that day. Um, so you know, think about that, and yeah, it may cost you some money uh, to pay a firearms instructor to give you that training, but that is an investment that you really can't put a dollar value on, because the safer you are, the more proficient you are, the more able you are to use that weapon when a situation occurs, the better off you're going to be. What is it worth to you and your family for their safety? So keep that in mind. Uh, how do you train uh, for uh, what how you're carrying the weapon? What type of holster are you using, or do you use multiple different kinds of holsters? Uh, there is a large market out there for holsters, and you can scroll through Facebook and you'll get 100 different advertisements pop up for this holster and that holster, and this one's the best one for carrying, for this situation. This is the best one for that situation. This has allows you to draw faster. This is more comfortable. All of those things, and you can get caught up in that. You can spend thousands of dollars on holsters and still not have the holster that works for you. You have to figure out what is going to work for you. Uh, and you, I'm not a big fan of it, but you may have to carry your weapon in multiple types of holsters depending on the situation that you're in, how you're dressed, the event that you're attending, whatever, may dictate what type of holster and even what type of weapon are you. Uh, and if you're carrying multiple weapons, you carry one type of weapon one day and another type of weapon the next day. Are you training uh, for each weapon? And are you going to remember what weapon you're carrying under stress when you have to draw that weapon? Well, this one, has a safety, where the one I've been carrying for the last 2 weeks don't have a safety that I have to, manipulate. All of those things come into play when you come into a real situation where you have to use that weapon. Uh, so, training with multiple different types of holsters that you're going to be using. Do you carry off body? A lot of people are carrying weapons in these little packs that sling over their shoulder. Um, that's okay. Uh, in some cases, it's uh, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, it's not ideal because you may take that pack off and while you're in the car or whatever, and then you get out of your car and you go into the restaurant or the store or you're out pumping gas, and now you're in a situation and you don't have your weapon with you. Are you a lady that carries your firearm in your purse? And I am really not a big fan of ladies carrying their weapon in their purse, uh, just because I'm not so sure you can you know, find that weapon in that purse, and I know there's purses that are designed for that, but not all purses are. And, your weapon can be put in there and it can bounce around in your purse, if it's, it could get, caught on something that, renders that weapon where it can be fired accidentally while it's in the purse. There's a lot of things. What happens if somebody grabs your purse and runs with it? So now they've got your money, your ID, possibly your keys and your weapon. So that's those things. Off body carry to me is not ideal. It may be necessary at times, but it's not ideal. Um, but do you train for that? For how you're carrying that weapon? Where do you train? People. I don't have the money to spend to go to a range every day or every week or every month, whatever the case may be. Uh, money's tight right now for a lot of families, and you may not have the money to spend for range time and things like that. Well, do you have a place in your backyard, that's safe for you to train? I have a little small range in my backyard that I can go out and train, and I do. I go out there and I train, and again, training is not just standing there, shooting at a static target. I move while I shoot. Because in a real situation, I may have to move to a place of cover or concealment. And do you know the difference between cover and concealment? That's something that you need to incorporate into your training. It's better to shoot behind something from behind something that somebody can't see you or maybe can't hit you as easy than it is to stand out in the open. I'm not going to be standing still while somebody's shooting at me. I'm going to be moving, make myself a harder target to hit. So, those are some things you need to consider and to incorporate into your training. Um, uh, can you do a magazine change while you're under stress? Do you practice changing your magazines under stress, while keeping your eye on the target? Do you have to look at your weapon to change that magazine? You shouldn't have to. Do you even carry a spare magazine with you when you're carrying your weapon? You should. A lot of these subcompact guns that people are carrying nowadays, only carry a limited, a small limited number of rounds, uh, and it may not be enough rounds to get the job done. What if there are multiple attackers? You need to train for those scenarios, and you need to have the weapon that uh, and the spare ammunition with you that you're going to need in those situations. But you need to be trained and know that you can use that uh, when the time comes. Uh, Weapon retention. Do you train for weapon retention? How do you keep somebody from taking that weapon away from you? If you do have to pull it out, present your weapon in a situation, are you trained in weapon retention? A lot of people aren't. And, it's something that you really need when you're out in public, if you have to pull that weapon out. Or I'm not a big fan of open carry, but a lot of people are carrying open nowadays. Uh, I mean, it can be a deterrent. I agree with that, but it also can make you a target. It also puts that weapon out there where people can see, hey, he's got a gun. Let me grab his gun. Are you training in weapon retention if you are carrying open? So make sure that you're covering bases, and that's why a good firearms instructor is always a good route to go when you're putting together a training program for yourself, because they're gonna uh, have a lesson plan, and they're gonna have techniques that they can teach you for that. Uh, a lot of people don't think about weapon retention, so keep that in mind. That's something you really need to think about. Uh, Dry fire training. You may not have enough money to buy, you know, 1,000 rounds of ammo a month for training, or 100 rounds of ammo, or even 50 rounds of ammo. Can you do dry fire training? Uh, I'm a big fan of dry fire training. When I go out and train, a lot of times before I shoot, I walk through the drill that I'm going to be doing, and dry fire while I'm doing that, just to make sure I've got my motions down, and things like that I need to be doing before I actually go into that uh, little training block that I'm doing. So dry fire training can help you with your trigger control, help you with your grip, and all of those things that you're going to need to be proficient with that firearm. Um, and so, you know, in the next few days, weeks, whatever it's going to take to get this done, and I may not be able to make a video every day. Uh, I do have other things going on in my life. Uh, this is just something I do on the side, and but uh, in the next few videos, we're going to work on some of this stuff. I might find somebody to help me do some videoing, because I'm going to have to actually go out on the range and show you some things that we're going to do, uh, that we can do for training. Uh, you don't have to spend a lot of money on setting up a range for yourself. If you set up one for yourself, you don't have to spend a lot of money on that. Uh, there's things probably laying around your house that you can use to help you set up your range, as long as you got a safe place to shoot. Uh, but we're going to talk about some of that stuff. I'm still working on getting some stuff for my range here at my house, and uh, that I'm going to use for my personal training and for people that come to me and ask me to help them with their training. Uh, and uh, remember that, have a plan for your training. uh, Sat down beforehand. Even before I made this video, I sat down and I made me some notes. I have me some notes written down here of what I wanted to talk about. Kind of have a plan together. When you go out for your training, have a lesson plan. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but have some things written down of what you want to train it at for that day. What you want to train on for that day. Um, uh, have in your lesson plan what you want to accomplish for each block of training that you're going to do. What do you want the end result of that training to be? Uh, that's very important also. That's why I recommend a good firearms instructor. They're going to plan things out for you and be prepared for you. Hopefully, when you show up, if they're a reputable one, they will. Uh, Make sure that the area is safe. Of course, remember you're responsible for everything that happens with that firearm. Um, there's just a lot of things that I want to cover with this. Uh, haven't even got into in this video. Haven't even got into what if you're part of your church security team. Uh, you know, do you train? Does your security team train? They should be training as a team. They should be getting together. It's not let's just get a bunch of guys and all of a sudden you're part of the security team and we're just going to wing it when something happens. Have a plan. Have designated jobs and assignments for those people. Uh, Make sure those people on your team know what to do with that weapon and know how to do it safely and proficiently, because that's important. Everything you do when you're carrying that weapon, you should have training. Again, I think that everybody should be required, if they're going to carry a weapon, they should be required to have some type of firearms training, and it should be ongoing training. It shouldn't be let's shoot one time. I have people that bring me firearms. They want their gun cleaned, and well, I haven't shot it in a year, and it's so covered up with lint and stuff from where they've been carrying it, that the gun don't even work anymore. Um, so uh, And that's another thing. What is your routine for every day when you go out of your house, when you're carrying that weapon? Do you just pick that gun up and stick it in the holster and take off with it? Do you check that weapon to make sure that everything's working on it? I was on the range one time uh, with some officers that and they carry their gun every day, and this officer pulled their weapon out of the holster and didn't even have a front sight on the weapon anymore. You know, the weapon didn't even have a front sight on it. It was gone. They don't even know when they lost their front sight. So when's the last time they checked that weapon? When's the last time they trained with that weapon? So you have, and this was an officer that carries a gun every day on their job. So, you know, training it helps you to be proficient. It helps you to make sure you know your equipment's going to work. Make sure you're going to work. Remember, uh, putting a little level of stress into that training uh, helps you to be prepared for the stress that you're going to be under when you're in a real life situation. Remember, you can't miss enough times to win a gunfight. Just spraying and praying, just is not going to win you that gunfight. Yeah, it might make them keep their head down, but it's not going to neutralize that target and make the area safe for you. You owe it to everybody around you to be able to do what needs to be done with that weapon when you have to use it. Can't stress that enough. Uh, it's something that you owe yourself and everybody around you. So y'all stay tuned. Uh, and in the coming days, weeks, whatever, I'm going to put out new videos and try to help you with that training. Y'all have a good day.